Who is the Notorious Big? That's me. It's a nigga that been stressed out all his motherfucking life. Single parent, never home, fucked up in the game, got introduced to the drugs, jumped on the drugs, got paid off the drugs, fucked up off the drugs. Now I got a record deal.
It's been almost 3 decades since Christopher George Latour Wallace, the world knew him as the notorious B.I.G, Biggie Smalls, or simply Biggie, was gunned down in a Los Angeles drive-by shooting on March 9, 1997. But here's the thing, the story hasn't ended. In fact, in 2025, it feels more alive than it has in years. Biggie's death is not just an old headline buried in hip-hop history, it's a living, breathing, unsolved mystery that refuses to fade away. And over the past year, a swirl of new documentaries, emotional interviews, explosive allegations, and heartbreaking losses has brought his name roaring back into the center of conversation. It's as if the streets, the fans, and the culture itself are refusing to let this chapter close. The facts, at least, the ones we know, are burned into music history. On that March night, Biggie had just left the Soul Train Awards in Los Angeles. He was riding in a black GMC Suburban with friends, security trailing behind. Around 12:45 a.m., as they stopped at a red light near the Peterson Automotive Museum, a dark Chevy Impala pulled up alongside. In a flash, the sound of rapid gunfire tore through the air. 4 bullets struck Biggie. One pierced his heart. At just 24 years old, one of hip-hop's greatest voices went silent. Back then, the streets were alive with rumors and theories. The East Coast versus West Coast feud was at its peak, fueled by aggressive lyrics, record label rivalries, and media sensationalism. The Bad Boy Records camp, led by Sean Puffy Combs, was still reeling from the loss of Tupac Shakur just 6 months earlier. Many whispered that Biggie's death was revenge. Others believed it was deeper, that police corruption, gang politics, and music industry power plays were tangled together in a way that made the truth untouchable. And there were those who swore the answers had been in plain sight all along, ignored or buried by those in power. But here's the cold, hard truth, 28 years later. You'd think the world might have moved on. Time usually dulls the sting of loss. But this year, Biggie's name is everywhere again, trending on social media, splashed across headlines, whispered in online forums, and dissected in YouTube documentaries. Something about 2025 feels different. Part of that is because of a powerful resurgence in emotional storytelling around Biggie's life. In a recently resurfaced clip from Biggie, I Got a Story to Tell, the Netflix documentary co-produced by his estate, Faith Evans, Biggie's widow, sits in front of the camera holding a handwritten letter from him. It's not a lyric sheet. It's not a business note. It's something raw, personal, and deeply human. You can see it in her eyes. This wasn't just a music legend to her. This was the man she loved. Her voice cracks, her eyes well up, and eventually, she breaks down on camera. The moment is devastating in its intimacy. Fans weren't ready for that. Within hours, the clip began spreading like wildfire. TikTok users layered it over "One More Chance" and "Sky's the Limit," adding their own commentary about love, loss, and legacy. On Instagram, hip-hop pages captioned it with "28 years later, and this still hurts," and "She loved him for real." For a generation that knows Biggie more as a cultural symbol than a living man, it was a reminder, behind the music, there was a heart. The other part of this renewed energy around Biggie's story comes from the fact that the mystery has never been solved, and conspiracy theory still pulls through the culture like a steady beat. Around every March 9th, the familiar hashtags pop up. But this year, they've been joined by an explosion of new content, podcasts dedicated entirely to the case, TikTok creators reenacting the shooting, YouTube channels dissecting LAPD documents line by line. And with each post, the same pressing question echoes: how is it possible, with all the evidence and all the witnesses, that no one has ever been held accountable?
I don't know about this. Be reading it, man. It's about what I do, man. I'm a rapper. It's a magazine about rap.
In January, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy was released, and it immediately set the internet ablaze. While much of the documentary celebrated his rise as a music mogul, it also included testimony and anecdotes from former insiders that reignited old whispers about Biggie's murder. Some hinted that Diddy's business empire had benefited from the chaos surrounding Biggie's death. Was it baseless gossip? Half-truths mixed with speculation? Or was there something lurking beneath the surface? The documentary didn't directly accuse anyone, but it didn't shy away from the rumors, either. And in today's viral media climate, that was enough to spark days of heated online debate. Social media was relentless. Memes appeared within hours. TikTok timelines filled with old bad boy footage set to ominous narration. On Twitter, threads pieced together timelines, contracts, and suspicious coincidences. The comments were filled with lines like, "Makes you wonder," and, "If this was anyone else, we'd have answers by now." While the internet speculates, Biggie's children, Tiana Wallace and CJ Wallace, have been busy quietly reshaping their father's legacy for the modern era. Tiana recently opened the Biggie Experience, a multi-room interactive exhibit in Brooklyn that takes visitors inside the world her father knew, from his modest childhood bedroom to a replica of his recording studio, complete with the iconic cookie sweaters and Kangol hats. C.J, meanwhile, has been leading Think Big, a socially conscious cannabis brand inspired by his father's creative spirit. But it's more than a business venture, it's a platform for art, entrepreneurship, and advocacy, pushing forward the idea that Biggie's story should inspire the next generation to think beyond boundaries. And then came another heartbreak. Earlier this year, Voletta Wallace, Biggie's mother, passed away. For decades, she had been the unshakable force behind preserving his memory and demanding justice. She was the on. The loss of Voletta has added a new layer of mystery. People can't help but wonder, if she knew more than she ever shared publicly, did those secrets pass away with her? Was there something she had been protecting? Something she couldn't say? This year feels like a cultural tipping point. The combination of a high-profile documentary, the resurfacing of emotional moments, the renewed fire of conspiracy debates, and the passing of Voletta Wallace has turned Biggie from a figure of nostalgia into a relevant force in today's pop culture. TikTok creators are crafting bite-sized investigative videos with grainy footage from the 90s. YouTube TrueCrime channels are uploading hour-long breakdowns of LAPD corruption and the politics of the East Coast-West Coast feud. Even fashion is feeling the ripple, with vintage bad boy and 90s Brooklyn styles making a full comeback. The thing about Biggie's murder is that it's a puzzle with missing pieces, and the longer the mystery lingers, the more obsessed people become with trying to solve it. The absence of closure hasn't made the world forget. It's made them hungrier, because the truth is, the world doesn't just want to remember Biggie as a rapper. They want answers. They want justice. They want to know who was in that Chevy Impala, who ordered the hit, and why. Until those answers come, every new interview, every hidden letter, every provocative documentary will be seen as another piece in a case that refuses to be closed. Maybe one day, someone will step forward with the truth. Maybe a sealed file will be unsealed, or an overlooked clue will resurface. Until then, Biggie will live on, in the booming bass of his tracks, in the faces of his children, in the memories of those who knew him best, and in the unanswered question that has haunted hip-hop for nearly 30 years, who killed the notorious B.I.G.